Boldo. It makes the video easier to find. So something here. Okay, I'll pass this around. It actually smells decent. And for being a digestive bitter,
It's not too bad.
tastes really pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, once we,
So
that's a unique
I'll
smell.
pass this around. It smells almost like a little citrusy. So here today, we're talking about Boldo leaf. Don't know how easy this is to grow. This is a really common herbal medicine in Mexico, all through South America. Like, extremely common. In fact, it's still used a lot in healthcare setting. Fact, a while ago, there was a student who, her husband was from Mexico and she spent about half the year in Mexico. And this would have been probably about, early 90s when she was in Mexico on a trip, like in a more rural part. And had an extreme liver gallbladder attack and had extreme gallstones and gallbladder issues, and was in the like a more rural hospital, and the doctor said, yeah, we can take your gallbladder out or you can drink Boldo tea. And she literally got served Boldo tea in the hospital, and she drank 3 cups a day, and it kind of like did the typical liver gallbladder flush cleanse and kind of purged some of her gallstones, took all of her pain and aches away, and I think she went home in like a couple days, no surgery, really never had any problems after that. So that's how helpful Boldo is. So
we can do this breakdown the gallstone.
yeah, so here's the thing about gallstones. We say traditionally, we say traditionally that some herbal medicines, some bitters, some hepatics, some cholagogues can actually purge stones that are there. A lot of medical doctors kind of would debate that, but we know just by like gallbladder scans and CT scans and ultrasound that they can actually be purged. There is an old-fashioned liver gallbladder flush. A lot of people have probably heard about, which is not something I advocate, that where you drink a bunch of olive oil and you take orthophosphoric acid and a bunch of apple juice and you pass all these marble-like things. And that's been shown actually as more of like a chemistry reaction. You're not really passing stones out. Those are like some kind of a fatty, oily chemical reaction. So yeah, there's a lot of old books will talk about this liver gallbladder flush where you drink, I think it's like a gallon of apple juice a day, and you put this called orthophosphoric acid in it, and take something else with it. Oh, the olive oil. Yeah, you take like, I think you drink up to like a couple cups of olive oil in a day, and it kind of purges your liver. It gives everybody like severe liver gallbladder cramp. It's not like a really safe thing to do. I know a couple people in the past that tried it on their own, like without being supervised, and ended up like in the ER with some really severe gallbladder pains. It's going to cause like vomiting and diarrhea and stuff like that. So remember, from our cleanse basics, we know nothing can really cleanse in a day. So that's against the principles of natural medicine. It takes at least 2 to 4 weeks to get into like a cleansing mode. So I'm not advocating that, but I just want you to be aware of it. But so the idea is that people said, oh yeah, pass like 100 or 1,000 stones because you pass these marble-like things, but they're actually more like congealed fats and oils. So, but you can pass stones. Sometimes they'll look oily, sometimes they'll look a little marble-ish like, but usually you don't see them because they're just in the stool itself. So in natural medicine, There we
Is it new?
go. Oh, wrong
Oh,
button.
he's having-
Sorry.
Oh.
Turn my ringer off. Okay. So that is not a good way to do a liver gallbladder flush. Not what we're advocating. But there, as practitioners, we feel like you can, over a long period of time, slowly break down gallstones and gallbladder stones. So there's thousands of case studies with a lot of medical imaging to support that, but it's not something that just happens immediately. When we take liver gallbladder herbs, though, we often get relief from our liver gallbladder pain and cramp and spasms, usually fairly quick, but that doesn't necessarily mean stone is totally gone. Okay.
So there's more to do to get the stone gone than just the.
It's more of this, to get the stone gone, it's more of just like a long-term process. That's all. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about Boldo leaf. It's a pretty straightforward herb, right? Just to review real quick. It's a digestive bitter. It's a hepatic. It's a cholagogue. These are the three liver functions. And then it's also what we call an antiseptic diuretic. So the diuretic part is easy. This is more secondary, by the way. We don't really use Boldo a lot as a diuretic or an antiseptic diuretic that much anymore. But historically, it's still used, use it like that occasionally. But Boldo leaf has, you can tell from some of the essential oils that it has antiseptic properties, especially against staph and strep and other antibiotic resistant bacteria. So it is used a lot for UTIs, UTI prevention. And it is a diuretic, meaning it's going to kind of flush the kidney and bladder a little bit. Remember, diuretics are not necessarily like prescription diuretics. You're not going to take this and necessarily urinate out like liters of fluid, right? When we see diuretic in herbal medicine, it means really, especially it cleanses the kidney or bladder somehow. Okay, so we use it mostly for just acute or chronic UTIs or bladder pain that would be coming from a UTI. Old books will say it's a demulcent too, but I just don't agree with that. So we're just calling it an antiseptic diuretic. Okay. So, and a lot of old books will just say cystitis. You know, what they're really just meaning is an inflamed, irritated bladder lining, no matter what part of the bladder or ureter it is. So anytime you have chronic inflammation and irritation in the bladder, but it is bitter, cold. I would say it's more cool, and all those things are going to be a little bit drying. Okay, so bitter, cold, and drying. But you notice it has a really citrusy smell, and the taste is not super bitter, which makes this herb really unique. So it's more cool instead of cold. It has like some ideas. All right, does anybody understand Apple Watches better than me here? No? Should be on. Movie. Oh, that's the one I want. Yeah. All right. So it's bitter, cold, and drying, but not super drying. Compared to other, are all herbs that are for the liver both bitter, hepatic, and also cholagogue?
Yes.
Not necessarily. So remember, a cholagogue, this is like a gradient of intensity, right? So digestive bitters are gonna cause mild secretion of bile and digestive enzymes and support liver gallbladder cleanse really gently. Hepatics gonna be a little bit more intense, better when the liver is actually inflamed and having a disease process. Where bitters, we tend to think of more when people just need liver gallbladder digestive support. Then what do we use a cholagogue for? Just to review. A cholagogue is when we need to actually purge the liver or gallbladder and have a really intense effect. Or sometimes nothing else is working. In the old days, before everybody had their gallbladder removed so easily, cholagogues would have been used all the time in a medical setting, and they work. And they work really well for often helping people to be able to save their gallbladder, right?
What did you say hepatic was?
Hepatic is more liver detoxifying, more aggressive than a bitter, more powerful for liver inflammation damage. And a cholagogue would be the most aggressive we could get. And this is, Boldo does a little bit of all three, which is not super uncommon, but not all liver herbs do that. What's unique about Boldo is that it is a cholagogue. And cholagogues tend to be really strong, but this actually tastes pretty pleasant. Like every other cholagogue I can think of is just horrible tasting, right? Golden seal, fringe tree bark, celandine, they're all like very strong liver herbs and they're all very, very horrid tasting. It's actually pretty pleasant, right? So we're going to use this. I personally don't really use it much as an antiseptic diuretic anymore. We're mostly just going to use Boldo straightforward for liver problems. So we're going to use it as a bitter when we have liver gallbladder sluggishness, liver gallbladder stones. We have congestion in our liver gallbladder. We have a really bad diet that's affecting our liver gallbladder. Drugs affecting our liver gallbladder, alcohol consumption, prescription drugs. That's really created a toxic overburden liver that is now causing our digestion to have problems. Especially in relationship to breaking down fats and proteins, right? More so than carbs. Okay. So if someone comes to us and they've had a gallbladder scan and it says they have gallbladder sludge, this is what a scan will say. This is like one of the main herbs we think of, right? Or you got ultrasound and you have like congestion or swelling or inflammation of the liver, what I consider something like this, right?
Is a downward or upward?
Downward action, 100%. Yeah, this one's really no debate, right? It smells really, I like this citrusy smell about it. The famous naturopath, Dr. Mitchell, said that it's really common for when people take Boldo, it makes their liver gallbladder feel like warm and toasty, like kind of fuzzy. But a lot of liver herbs can sometimes do that, right? We talk more about when you take liver gallbladder herbs, often you'll get like that cell phone buzzing sensation in your liver, right? That's a good sign. What does that mean usually, by the way? Clinically, we feel that little buzz. We're not talking about like severe pain. We're talking about buzz, right? What does that usually mean?
That the herb is working.
Means the herb is working. But what's it doing to make it feel that way? It means all the ducts are starting to open. And Chinese medicine would say the qi and blood are now flowing in and out of the liver really efficiently. All the bile ducts are opening, all the liver ducts are opening, all the gallbladder channels are opening, all the sludge is starting to move out. And you'll just feel like lasts for about 30 to 60 seconds. It just feels like a buzz vibration. One of the all-time best liver signs, right? This is gonna be specific for any kind of liver disease or gallbladder disease, especially if you're having gallbladder discomfort, you're having pain in the right-hand side. You're having pain between the shoulder blades, right? You're having pain, headaches in the side of the head. You're feeling queasy, nauseous, right? You're feeling every spring. Just had a client today. It was spring, she's feeling nauseous and queasy, just reminded her, hey, it's just, just your liver adjusting or not adjusting to the season. Okay.
Do you take less if you have MTHFR?
Anytime someone has MTHFR, we ease into any kind of anything that touches the liver, like a bitter or a hepatic, especially a cholagogue, just because it's going to create some of those methylation pathways to open up. So we'd ease into it. So typically when you would do these in the old days, like in a hospital type setting, you would drink a lot of a cholagogue at once and it would just kind of purge. But the better strategy that's safer and easier to do is we just take these for extended periods of time, right? At least 2 weeks, maybe many months, right? In a more moderate dose.
Is it common as a tincture or capsule, or is it dusted between?
It's very common. You can go to the grocery store in South O and find this everywhere because it's very commonly used in the like Hispanic cook. I don't know if it's cooked with, but it's used like in the tradition for a home remedy, herbal home remedy. So you can find it a lot of places. It's not too hard to find in America, but it's not super common. I have never seen a capsule of it, but you can get it in a tincture sometimes. But more likely you can find it in a tea pretty easily. So the basic dose of this is going to be 1 cup of tea 2 or 3 times a day with a meal, isn't it? Or for a tincture, usually we just do 30 drops 3 times a day with the meal. Would be about the equivalent. If you're trying to avoid having your gallbladder removed and you're really struggling and having problems that aren't getting better, it could go up to like 60 drops 3 times a day. But typically we would put this into a liver gallbladder formula. So it's almost to the energy of neutral because of this, a little bit of this citrusy aromatic side of it. How many people think it tastes actually good? No. I think it tastes actually good.
I like it.
Okay. But that's about all that I know about it. I do know there's a group of alkaloids in it. The most researched one being called Boldo, that we think are responsible for at least a good chunk of the effects on gallstones and gallbladder congestion. Remember, there's hundreds of thousands of phytochemicals on the planet, right? Hundreds of thousands. So most of them are actually only occur in certain plants, often the plant they were first discovered in. That's how they were named. So Boldo, obviously from Boldo, right? That makes sense. So it's really common to see some of these compounds will only occur in some plants, other ones will be more common. So does that make sense to everybody? Like chemistry wise, when we see something named after a plant, it either means it's unique to this plant alone, and they had to make a name up for it, or it's the first place that researchers ever found the compound, so they just named it from the plant. Good. Okay, it's not a super exciting herb. I mean, it's exciting, but it's not really flashy, right? Just straight to me, liver gallbladder. How many people feel it? Feel it a little bit already. Nobody else, just a couple of people feeling it? Okay. Questions on Boldo? I mean, that's really about all that I know it's used for.
Can it help if you have no gallbladder?
Yeah, so remember, if we don't have a gallbladder, if someone's had their gallbladder removed, then we need to do digestive bitters every day because all of our bile storage is gone. We're absorbing fats and oils and a lot of other fat soluble vitamins, right? Like vitamin A and vitamin D and vitamin E. So if you've had your gallbladder removed, doing some kind of a digestive bitter every day is a good strategy, especially if you're going to be eating fatty foods or oily food. Even nuts and seeds, right, have fats and oils. We're not just talking about like a steak or fried fish. We're just talking about any type you have any kind of healthy oil too. Taking flaxseed oil supplements, fish oil supplements. Remember, one of the biggest problems we see is people who take like a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, especially in the form of fish oil. They can actually really congest their liver, gallbladder, get gallstone. Like if you look at one of the known side effects of fish oils is gallstones, because if you already have a compromised liver and you're going to take this really processed like omega-3 supplement, you're more likely to have more liver problems, right?
How about the ground flaxseed? Could that do?
Ground flaxseed wouldn't be like enough oils to really cause a problem. I mean, we would still need liver bile and that to absorb the oils that are in there.
For all ages or
Typically something like this, remember like with children, because their bodies are so healthy, they shouldn't have an actual liver disease. You know, like they shouldn't probably have hepatitis or elevated liver enzymes. So we usually don't use a lot of strong liver herbs on kids or adolescents at all, because they usually don't ever need them. But you do a lot of gentle digestive bitters for kids, like dandelion and artichoke and milk thistle and especially angelica, right? The orange peel. So we could use Boldo with children, just as a digestive bitter in lower doses. But we probably combine it with other stuff that tastes really good for children, like especially orange peels, like the best herb for children to mix bitters with. Fennel seed, catnip, peppermint. So I mean, we would have a little bit in the formula, but not like a huge amount.
right, so would there, for adults, elderly, are there any precautions, any groups?
Yeah, so the only precaution with a hepatic or a cholagogue, if someone is having like severe pain in that area, we want to often make sure they've had like a ultrasound or a gallbladder, I think they call it a HIDA scan, gallbladder scan. Make sure they don't have like an obstructed stone in their like bile duct, which is level 10 pain. You know, it's not something you can just Advil that away, right? You're going to be in ER for it, like this scan. So the only precaution with some of these things that's in textbooks that we just want to make sure people don't have a blockage already, because that's a medical emergency. But that would not be like a chronic liver gallbladder problem. This would be something like really acute and you would be at ER. So that makes sense. But otherwise, there's no contraindications other than just knowing some people, like people with MTHFR or sensitive constitutions, just might be. We wouldn't use a lot of liver cleansing herbs. We would just use them to it. That's all. Otherwise, there's no contraindications of it. There's no known drug interactions with it either. I mean, logically speaking, you know, if you take a liver cleansing herb, your liver is going to become healthier and you're going to metabolize your drugs more efficiently. So, I mean, anytime people are on a bunch of medications, you can assume that the liver is going to be more efficient at doing what it needs do. So, but that doesn't mean there's gonna be like it's gonna be an interaction. Right? But he seems really tired. What's that?
I thought it's been a rough week already.
Party too much or?
Oh, no.
Okay, any questions on Boldo? It's not like super common, it's not, what's that?
Yeah.
I don't know how it got in.